What I'm doing in today's video is I am making my own wrapping for some presents. This, of course, is not necessary. You could easily just wrap a package with paper, but this is something that is cute and it doesn't take a long time to do. If you're someone like me and has collected quite a bit of Christmas fabric, this is a great way to use it without too much stress in the sewing room. What I did was I cut two pieces of a cotton woven material. I did not interface them. This is not a structured bag. This is just like a slip-in pouch. The size you cut will depend on how big of the package or box or item that you are wrapping. I never measure the size when I make these, whether I'm making them for snacks or whether I'm making them for traveling or for gifts. I just kind of rough cut some sizes that I think will work. I try to make sure everything's straight like a rectangle. I make a lot of these for snacks and for traveling. So when I make those, I use a layer of Food Safe PUL on the inside. I'm also going to be making a small bow so that I can wrap around it as a little bit of embellishment. I'm using thread from Wizardry. I am using fabric from My Little Shindig, a cork tag from Heartwood and Hod. Fold over elastic. I just had this in my drawer. I'm not for sure where it came from. And then I'll put a link for where I buy this ribbon. I buy a lot of times for binding around bags because it's kind of thin and it's not hard to fold around things, so it doesn't add a lot of bulk. And I get them, I think it's 50 cents a yard, which isn't too bad to keep on hand if I'm ever in a hurry and don't want to cut binding, or if I want to use it for a special project like today. To get this pattern started, I'm going to take my two pieces. One will end up being an exterior, one will end up being a lining. It's best if you use a non-directional print on this bag because the top part will be folded down. And then you just place them right sides together, matching up all the sides. Once you have these two pieces right sides together, you're going to sew along the top and along the bottom. And I typically just use 1/4 inch seam allowance, but you could definitely use 3/8 if you prefer that one. But you're just going to back stitch when you start and stop both the top and the bottom. Once you have that top and bottom sewn, go ahead and flip it out. You can take it over to the ironing board and press the seams flat or open, or however you want to do it. In the end, what you want is those seams back at the top and the bottom. And then we're going to top stitch both of these seams. Make sure when you're getting that bottom seam that you're flattening everything out and there's no kind of extra material in the middle. So this is going to be the exterior for me, and then this is going to be my lining. What I want to do is I want to kind of figure out where I want to place my tag. Of course, a tag isn't necessary, but none of this is necessary, so it's just fun for me. How to figure out that placement is I want to go ahead and fold this the way it's going to be in the end. So this is pretty much the way my pouch is going to look. I'm going to add some clips so I know how I want it to be whenever I'm done. Basically what you do is you fold the top down and the bottom up. There is no set measurements. I just kind of eyeball it and what I feel like looks good. The gift will be in here, so I definitely want this portion big enough so that the gift can sit in here, and then I want this long enough so that it can lay flat on top of it. Maybe I would say that this is over half, because it's not directly in the middle, and this is probably, so maybe 2/3 and 1/3. Maybe we could say it that way. So now that I know how the flap is going to look, I can decide if I want this on the front or on the back. I think I'm going to have mine on the front. It's such a cute tag that I could easily, yeah, I think I like it there because I can have a placement pretty good there. So I want to center up my tag and I'm going to sew it on, but I'm just going to sew it through these two layers. If you wanted, you could also put a tag on the back, or if you have a really high flap like this, you could even sew it down here. Just several different options. I'm going to center up my tag, sew it on, and then when I come back, we'll start finishing this up. I sewed on my tag. I'm looking at my exterior side. So I have the bottom folded up, the top folded down. I have maybe 1/8 inch of a gap that I can feel that bottom seam up to the top. So it's not all the way in the crease, but it really wouldn't matter if it was. I just have a little bit of gap there, and that's typically the way I do mine. So since we're looking at the exterior, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the French seam method. So I'm going to sew down both of these sides. I'm just going to use 1/4 of an inch here for sure. After I do that 1/4 of an inch, I'm actually going to trim it down to 1/8 of an inch. So I'm sewing through all the layers, tacking down the top and the bottom all together. I sewed down both sides with 1/4 of an inch, and then I trimmed it down to about 1/8. You could definitely sew it at a 3/8 or bigger seam allowance, but you would always want to trim it down to about 1/8 of an inch for this next step. Now what I'm going to do is I'm looking at the exterior. I'm going to flip it all so that I'm looking at the lining. Poke out your corners nicely. We want to get everything poked out really well. Flip that bottom out too. And then you want to make sure you refold it. So that top should be in. Here's my top with the tag on it. Here's that bottom. Make sure it's refolded and that everything looks good. The edges, these corners really need some time to get poked out. You do not want extra bulk in there. It wouldn't end the world or anything, but just be a little bit harder to sew over and might not look as neat. So there's my bottom corners. Here's the top opening. Here's that top flap. Orientate this again, press it flat, and now we're going to sew again down these sides. This time we want to make for sure that we get over that seam allowance. This is going to enclose that seam. So for me, I can still do 1/4 of an inch. If you can't do 1/4 of an inch, then go to 3/8. You definitely just want to make sure that those seams are covered. I'm pretty much putting my foot right up against that seam, pushing it flat up against there so that I know it's all getting encased. So now that I have the French seams completed, that means the seam, the raw edge is tucked inside. This is the lining we're looking at. I'm going to flip it all right sides out. Definitely going to take some time to poke the corners out because they have a little bit of an extra bulk to them now. Here is my little pouch for the gift wrap. Let's put a gift inside, and then I'm going to make a little bow to put around it with a name tag. Okay, I have my gift in there. I'm going to take this fold over elastic. I cut it to a size that would give me some tension on it, but still be able to slip on and off easily. I also took a piece of clear vinyl, used my hole puncher to make a hole in it. I sewed around 3 edges. I am leaving this top open. This is just a very rough thing to do. If you have some pretty vinyl, this would be a great place to fussy cut a piece of vinyl. Or if you just have regular and don't want to use clear, you could do that too. But what I'll do is I'll use this as a name holder, so a name tag. So I can put my daughter's name in here so we know whose is whose on Christmas morning. What I also want to do though is before I add this onto my bag, before I sew it together, I want to show you the bow that I made for this. I'm going to put the bow right here and sew that on place, but I found a video and I will link it in the description. I'm not going to show the tutorial for it because I didn't get permission and I just don't want any problems, but I made a little bow out of ribbon. Now in the video that's going to be linked in my description, she used fabric strips, and what she did was she sewed hers right sides together to make a tube and turn them out. I definitely wasn't going to make a tube and turn out 10 tubes for each gift. It just wasn't going to happen. If you don't have ribbon like I do, what you could do is take like a piece of fabric and then just fold the edges in and then fold them in again. Make a 4-way fold or even a 2-way fold if you don't mind a little bit of fraying on the sides, and you can make your bows that way. So a couple options there, but she does have a full tutorial that I'll link. But for me, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to test out to make sure that I have this. Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm going to just overlap this, and then I'm going to put this bow on top of it. Now I'm back and forth. I originally thought I wanted to leave this part like lifted up and I was going to sew through here, but I don't know. I'm kind of debating on sewing it down to have it look more like that. When it lifts up, it kind of comes up a little too high. So I definitely want to make sure I'm just sewing through the 2 overlapping ends. I don't want to sew over this at all. I'm actually going to baste these ends in place first, just because I don't want anything slipping whenever I have the bow in place. So now that I have those edges basted together, it's time for me to add the bow on top. I did sew all my bows on, except this top one I just glued because I knew I'd be attaching it with the band in place. The video that I watched, she used a hot glue gun on all of hers, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel like that was the best option for me, so I didn't. Now you can see I have that elastic underneath, and then I just lifted this foot up and I'm just going to do some stitches here. I've decided to not tack down that bow. And we'll do another row of stitching just to make for sure I have this elastic nice and secure, because there will be some stretch on it. Make sure you slip everything out of the way so you're just sewing through the one layer on this bow, the one layer of the elastic. You can trim up any loose threads with a lighter, but now my little package is complete. I'm going to slip this around. And will I do this for all the gifts this year? No, but this one will be able to be used next year. All of my materials are going to be reusable, so I can put it up and store it. And then maybe each year I make a few little gifts. But here is my little homemade gift. And this will be how it'll be under my tree. And I think it's just a cute way to do it. And maybe I'm just being a little extra for Christmas right now, but that's what I wanted to do. So I'll probably make a few of these, not all the gifts we have, but I think it's a super cute way to have a little bit of fun. Maybe if you have like one special gift for like maybe the grandmother in the family, she gets a very nice hand-wrapped gift that the kids all do together, but everybody else gets just normal ones or something like that. But super cute, fun. I'll have the video link for the bow in the description. Fabric is from My Little Shindig, and my tag, of course, is Heartwood and Hide. Super cute. And let me know, do you ever make homemade gift wrap, whether it's bags like this or even the bags like Sincerely Jen has a really nice gift bag. Do you guys make those, or do you just not do it on the holidays and don't add that to your list? So no matter what you're sewing in your room today, I hope it's just something that brings you joy, makes you a little happy, and gives you just those pleasant, warm, fuzzy feelings. And I hope also that you have a wonderful day today. Thank you so much for watching another tutorial of mine.